The truth is that the official history we learn in school is just a well-edited script. When we look behind the closed doors of the Vatican, we find not just ancient manuscripts and dusty parchments, but artifacts and technologies that completely rewrite the origin of the human species. The silence of the Vatican and the Anunnaki Code. There is a question that the world's elite hope you never ask yourself: what happens when religious faith and alien technology meet in the most secret place on Earth? In the center of Rome, protected by imposing walls and a nearly impenetrable security system, lies the Vatican's secret Apostolic Archives. Over 85 kilometers of shelves, housed in underground catacombs, contain documents that no ordinary person will ever see. Official history tells us that only papal letters, medieval bulls, and diplomatic documents are stored there. But what if what lies beneath St. Peter's Square has nothing to do with Scripture, but with a reality much darker and older than the Bible itself? In the 1950s, a startling piece of news shook academic circles in Italy. Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a respected Benedictine monk, physicist, and specialist in acoustic frequencies, made an impossible claim. Together with a secret team of some of the greatest scientists of the 20th century, including Nobel laureate Enrico Fermi and scientist Wernher von Braun, Ernetti claimed to have built a device called the Chronovisor. A device capable of capturing electromagnetic waves and acoustic resonances left behind by past events, transforming them into clear images and sounds. A direct window through space and time. Officially, the project was classified, and the prototype disassembled by direct order of the Holy See, under the pretext that such technology could destroy the foundations of human society. But unofficial documents that have come to light tell a different story. The Chronovisor was not a modern invention. It was a reconstruction. The Vatican's secret research did not begin in the 20th century, but long before, during expeditions to Mesopotamia. There, in Sumerian clay tablets, scholar priests discovered references to the Anunnaki, those who descended from heaven to earth. These ancient texts described not only myths, but also complex mathematical formulas, precise sound frequencies, and blueprints of devices used by these stellar visitors to monitor and manipulate human genetics. What did the Vatican researchers discover when they activated the device based on the Anunnaki codes? The images received did not just show sequences from recent history, but revealed a disturbing truth: the origins of humanity are not the result of slow evolution or a classical divine miracle, but the consequence of technological intervention directly directed by non-human entities. The Chronovisor was not just a device for looking into the past. It was a receiving antenna connected to the resonant network of the creators. Recent studies of Earth resonance and sacred frequencies demonstrate that certain vibrations have the ability to alter perception and open channels of communication with higher dimensions. Why do the Vatican archives keep locked away manuscripts linking ancient acoustic resonance to Anunnaki technology? What did researchers really see inside the Chronovisor screen during the long nights in the catacombs of Rome? And most importantly, why is this technology being brought back to life now, in the age of global revelation? Prepare to step beyond the veil of illusion. What you are about to hear is not just a theory. It is the missing piece of a cosmic puzzle that they have tried to keep hidden for millennia. Look closely, listen to the frequencies, and draw your own conclusions before this information is erased from the public domain. Anunnaki intervention and forbidden frequency technology. To understand what happened inside the Vatican catacombs when the Chronovisor was put into operation, we must go back to the dawn of written civilization. In the valley between the Tigris and Euphrates, the Sumerians left behind tens of thousands of clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform writing. Academic history tells us that these are merely business registers, religious hymns, and mythological poems. But linguists who have closely analyzed the unofficial texts have discovered a structural anomaly that is impossible to ignore: an advanced mathematical system, based on the number 60, that describes planetary movements with a precision that modern astronomy has only matched in the 20th century. How could a civilization fresh out of the Stone Age know about the existence of outer planets, distant and invisible to the naked eye? The tablets offer a direct and disturbing answer: the information was given to us by the Anunnaki. But who were these visitors really? In ancient Hebrew texts such as the Book of Enoch, a text deliberately removed from the official biblical canon by the Council of Nicaea, they are called the Watchers or Nephilim. Beings of imposing stature, possessing devastating cosmic knowledge, who descended to earth and changed the course of human evolution. And the connection between these ancient gods and the Holy See is much deeper than anyone dares to admit. In the cloistered archives of Rome are preserved unpublished fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in the caves of Qumran in 1947. Documents guarded with extreme strictness, which describe not religious parables, but mathematical formulas related to sound resonance and electromagnetic waves. Father Pellegrino Ernetti, in addition to his knowledge of quantum physics, was the world's leading expert on archaic music and Gregorian chant. He understood a truth that mainstream science tries to bury: sound is not just an acoustic vibration, but an invisible geometry that can shape matter. This is where the Chronovisor's dark secret comes in. When Ernetti's team tried to capture images from the past, they realized that the electromagnetic signals left by historical events were distorted, almost impossible to decode. A crucial component was missing. Something that would act as a frequency key, a signal stabilizer through time. The key was found in a secret Sumerian manuscript brought from Babylon in the 4th century and kept in the titanium vaults beneath St. Peter's Square. The manuscript contained instructions for applying specific frequencies, harmonic vibrations capable of breaking the space-time barrier. When these frequencies were fed into the chronovisor's cathode ray tubes, the screen stopped displaying fleas and white noise. In their place, images of chilling clarity appeared. According to testimonies left by sources inside the Vatican who wished to remain anonymous, the first clear image obtained was not from the crucifixion of Christ, nor from ancient Rome. It was a projection of a megalithic temple in Mesopotamia. The landscape did not show primitive people building from mud bricks, but massive structures of resonant stone, cut with surgical precision, operated by high entities with non-human features. The device not only received the past of the Earth, but also captured transmissions from an interstellar communication network that still functions today. What the Vatican researchers understood at that moment changed everything. The project was urgently stopped. Father Ernetti was strictly ordered to remain silent under threat of direct excommunication from Pope Paul VI. Parts of the device were dismantled and hidden in various bunkers in Europe and North America, and the mathematical formulas were classified at the highest level of military security. But why so much fear? Why would a religious institution hide a device that could prove the existence or non-existence of historical miracles? Because the truth revealed by the chronovisor threatened to collapse the entire power structure of the modern world. If the planetary population were to learn that its origins are linked to an Anunnaki technological matrix and that our perception of reality is controlled by reduced frequencies, the old control system would dissolve in a single second. Look at what is happening in the world today. The Pentagon's recent declassifications of unidentified flying objects, the sudden interest of large corporations in artificial intelligence and quantum physics, and the massive underground scans conducted in Iraq, Egypt, and under the Vatican are no coincidences. The search is on for the lost components of this technology again. The search is on for the resonant network. We are on the verge of the greatest revelation in human history. What has been buried under the silence of centuries is beginning to surface. And the question is no longer whether the device was real, but when will those who lead us decide to press the activation button again? Stay connected, analyze the details, listen to the vibrations, and don't let anyone tell you what to believe. The truth is not up there, it is already among us, protected by codes that we are only now beginning to decipher. The genetic matrix and the last signal from the catacombs. If you thought the Chronovisor story stopped at simply viewing images from the past, the reality is much more disturbing. What the researchers from Father Ernetti's team achieved in the late nights of 1965 exceeded every limit of known physics. The device not only received electromagnetic waves remaining in spacetime, but also began to react to them. The cathode ray tube screen was no longer a simple monitor, but had become a permeable membrane between two dimensions. In modern quantum physics, we talk about the idea that the universe is a gigantic hologram, and solid matter is just an illusion created by the vibration frequencies of atoms. But what did the Anunnaki creators know over 6,000 years ago? Documents transcribed from the Vatican's private archives describe a discovery that caused panic at the highest levels of the papal hierarchy. While calibrating the device to a specific acoustic frequency, a harmonic resonance obtained by superimposing primordial sounds from Babylonian texts, the researchers noticed that the signal was not coming from Earth's past. The signal was coming in real time. Its source was not a memory buried in history, but an active transmitter located more than 300 meters deep directly beneath the base of St. Peter's Basilica. There, in the unexplored catacombs, where no modern archaeologist has access, lies a resonant core. A massive artifact, made of an alloy unknown to Earth, that emits a constant electromagnetic pulse, perfectly synchronized with the heartbeat of our planet. What is this object? According to secret notes left by physicist Enrico Fermi before his mysterious death, the artifact is a genetic dowry box left by the Anunnaki, a stabilization device that keeps human consciousness in a narrow band of frequencies. Think of it as a global signal jammer. An invisible force field that prevents the human brain from accessing other dimensions of reality. The human genome contains vast stretches of DNA that official genetics conveniently calls non-functional DNA or junk DNA. Over 90% of our genetic code is considered useless by mainstream science. But what if this DNA is not waste at all, but an encrypted code, a biological antenna to be deactivated? What if the chronovisor was nothing more than a key designed to reactivate these dormant sequences? When Ernetti and his team modified the frequency of the tubes to a specific value, those present in the room reported altered states of consciousness. Scientists began to see not just images on the screen, but to perceive the surrounding architecture in a completely different way. They described a network of luminous lines that crisscrossed the Earth, the so-called ley lines, all converging on sacred points, the pyramids of Giza, Stonehenge, the ziggurats of Iraq, and the catacombs of the Vatican. We are not talking about simple stone structures. We are talking about a global system of silent energy generation. A cosmic network through which the Anunnaki entities controlled the Earth's energy grid. In 1972, an Italian pamphlet called La Domenica del Corriere published the first and only official chronovisor photograph, a clear image of the face of Jesus Christ on the cross. The Vatican soon declared the image a hoax, and the whole story was quickly covered up. The public was assured that it was all just a hoax by an old monk. But the detail that the media completely ignored was that, the same week the photo was discredited, the Vatican issued an unprecedented papal decree. Anyone using a device to capture waves from the past would be automatically excommunicated on the spot. Why would a church issue a strict legal law against a device it claimed doesn't exist? Why ban a ghost if it poses no real threat? The answer is simple: the chronovisor worked. And not only did it work, it had begun to pick up current transmissions from visitors. Behind the massive oak doors of the Holy See, theologians and scientists understood that the ancient gods never left Earth. They did not retreat into distant space, but moved into parallel dimensions of our reality, monitoring the human species through this acoustic network. And when human technology in the 20th century reached the threshold of their resonance, the signal was detected. Today, evidence of this connection appears all around us, hidden in plain sight. Look at the symbolism used by the most powerful institutions in the world. The papacy wears the papal tiara and the pine cone-shaped staff, the direct symbol of the pineal gland and Anunnaki knowledge. In the Vatican Museum stands a huge bronze sculpture of a cone, surrounded by two peacocks, the very ancient symbol of the gods of Mesopotamia. All these symbols are not simple artistic decorations. They are frequency signals. Cryptograms intended for those who know how to read the code. What is happening now is the final phase of a plan that has been unfolding for thousands of years. Modern particle physics projects, such as the CERN accelerator, are not just looking for subatomic particles. They are trying to break through the dimensional barrier that the chronovisor reached in the 1960s. They are trying to reopen the Anunnaki portal. In Father Ernetti's classified manuscripts, confiscated by the Vatican's secret services and sealed in the bunker at Castel Gandolfo, there is a final note, written in a trembling hand just days before his disappearance from public life. The device is dangerous because it does not lie. It does not show what we want to believe, but shows the empty matrix of reality. When people understand that the voices of the past are still here, singing the same control frequency, the invisible shackles of the human mind will shatter. Pray that the device remains in the dark, for its light is unbearable. We are witnessing an era in which the veil is thinning day by day. The Earth's resonant frequencies are increasing, and the old jamming system is beginning to fail. The information you hide in your basements today becomes the wake-up calls of tomorrow. Don't stop searching. Look beyond the official narrative, listen to the frequencies that resonate within you, and ask yourself, if everything you've been told about history is a lie, what else is waiting to be discovered in the depths of silence? The Antarctic Map, Forbidden Frequencies, and the Return of Nibiru. There are truths so well hidden that they are left to be seen right before our eyes, protected by an invisible wall of ridicule and official denial. What you are about to discover is not a simple series of coincidences, but the pieces of a monumental puzzle that connects the secret maps of antiquity, the global acoustic control of human consciousness, and the greatest astronomical cover-up in modern history. To understand the full picture, we must look beyond the limits imposed by school textbooks. It all begins in a dusty room in a museum in Istanbul in 1929, where a document was discovered that shattered the certainties of official history, the Piri Reis map, dating from 1513. Created by an Ottoman admiral based on much older maps, some of which came from the legendary collection of the Library of Alexandria, this cartographic piece depicts the western coast of Africa, the eastern coast of South America, and the northern coast of Antarctica. But here comes the anomaly that has baffled experts. Antarctica is drawn completely ice-free, detailing smooth rivers, mountain ranges, and fertile valleys. Official science tells us that Antarctica has been covered by a kilometer-thick ice cap for at least 12 million years. And yet, modern geology has recently confirmed that the region looked exactly as it did on Piri Reis's map more than 10,000 years ago. How was it possible for someone to map an ice-covered continent long before mankind invented ocean navigation? The answer provided by alternative archives and half-translated Sumerian texts points us to a disturbing reality. Antarctica was not just any landmass, it was one of the main centers of the Anunnaki civilization on Earth. There, beneath kilometers of current ice, lies a massive megalithic complex, a structure capable of generating global electromagnetic fields. When the global cataclysm struck the planet millennia ago, the poles shifted, and the ice sheet forever buried the technology left behind by these visitors from the stars. But how do we know that this technology has not been completely forgotten? This is where the second piece of the puzzle comes in: acoustic control of human consciousness and forbidden frequencies. If Antarctica represents the physical hardware of the ancient planetary network, sound and frequencies represent the software by which human consciousness is kept in a limiting loop. In ancient Mesopotamian tablets and in secret manuscripts kept in the Vatican vaults, it is spoken of as a geometric symphony. Sound is not a mere byproduct of the vibration of air, but the fundamental instrument through which matter is born. Ancient civilizations used precise harmonic frequencies, such as the sacred vibration of 432 Hz, the regeneration code of 528 Hz, the dimensional opening frequency of 1111 Hz, and the cosmic resonance of 963 Hz, to keep human DNA aligned with universal harmony. These sounds activated what modern geneticists ignorantly call jump DNA, allowing the brain to access higher levels of consciousness and clarity. But what happened in the 20th century? In a move that went largely unnoticed by the general public, the standard tuning for music worldwide was officially changed in 1939 and finally ratified in 1953. Until then, instruments had been naturally tuned to 432 Hz. By international decision, the strict standard of 440 Hz was adopted. Why was this change made? Research in the field of cymatics and subliminal psychology shows that the 440 Hz frequency stimulates the ego center, generates a subtle but constant state of anxiety, stimulates fear, alienation, and spiritual disconnection. Humanity has been systemically locked into an invisible cage of dissonant frequencies. All the commercial music we listen to on the radio today, all the movies and all the media broadcasts are built on this jamming frequency. The Vatican knew this. In the Apostolic Archives, among thousands of parchments that are officially said to contain nothing important, are thousands of years-old musical scores recovered from the Middle East, written exclusively for the frequencies of 432 Hz and 1111 Hz. Those scores were not intended for the pleasure of the gods, but functioned as a code to unlock the jamming frequencies. When Benedictine monk Pellegrino Ernetti put the chronovisor into operation in the 1960s, he realized that the device needed not only electrical circuits, but a resonant chamber tuned precisely to these sacred frequencies in order to see beyond the veil. And yet, the story does not stop there. There is a third element that sets the entire current global scenario in motion: the approach of planet Nibiru and the Lucifer telescope. If ancient maps show us where the past has been and frequencies show us how we are held captive in the present, the night sky shows us what is coming in the future. Sumerian texts translated by visionary scholars periodically mention the return of the planet Nibiru, a massive celestial body with a huge elliptical orbit around our sun, completing a full rotation once every 3,600 years or so. This is the homeworld of the Anunnaki. Mainstream science denied the existence of this planet for decades, calling it mere mythology. But in June 1983, something extraordinary happened. NASA's Infrared Space Telescope, IRAS, detected a massive celestial object on the edge of our solar system, about the size of Jupiter, heading toward the system's interior. The news made the front pages of major newspapers, such as the Washington Post, but within days, everything was buried under military silence. Scientists who spoke out publicly were silenced, and the data was classified. What has happened since then? The global elite, the major space agencies, and major religious institutions know exactly what's coming. Why do you think the Vatican, a theoretical institution dedicated to spirituality, owns and operates one of the world's most advanced infrared telescopes, strategically located on Mount Graham in Arizona? And more importantly, why is this telescope officially named Lucifer, Large Binocular Telescope Near-Infrared Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research? An institution that publicly condemns absolute evil names its most powerful astronomical eye pointed toward deep space after the fallen light bearer? The answer is simple for those who can read between the lines. They're not looking for distant stars. They're monitoring the trajectory of the celestial body returning home. They're tracking the gravitational signal and electromagnetic resonance of Nibiru as it approaches Earth's orbit. All three of these elements, the structures buried beneath the Antarctic ice on the Pyre Reefs map, the global acoustic jingle maintained by the 440 Hz frequency against the original harmony of 432 Hz, 528 Hz, and 1111 Hz, and the imminent reappearance of the home planet monitored by the Vatican telescopes, are not separate facts. They are chapters of the same forbidden book. The veil from the eyes is thinning by the day. The Earth's magnetic fields are fluctuating violently, the Schumann resonance is increasing in ways that are inexplicable to classical physics, and signals from the depths of the catacombs are beginning to resonate with the vibrations of the cosmos. What lies behind closed doors cannot be kept under lock and key for much longer. The next step is up to you. Look beyond the noise of everyday life, reject the frequencies that keep you asleep, listen to the harmonies that awaken your consciousness, and stay connected to the truth. Because when all comes to light, those who have understood the code will be the only ones prepared for what comes next. Royal bloodlines and the last Anunnaki secret. There is a question that modern genetics has been trying to avoid for more than half a century. Why do we carry in our cells the imprint of a molecular surgical intervention that official science cannot explain? If you look closely at the family trees of the great historical dynasties, the royal houses that ruled Europe and the Middle East, and the elites who control the banking and religious structures behind the scenes, you will notice a bizarre, almost pathological, obsession with blood purity. Endogamous marriages, the maintenance of closed genetic lines, and the preservation of extremely strict genealogical records in the private archives of the Vatican are not simply aristocratic traditions. They represent a protocol for preserving a biological code received millennia ago. To understand why this information is the best-kept secret in the catacombs of Rome, we must look at one of the greatest enigmas of human biology. In 2000, when the Human Genome Project first mapped the entire DNA of our species, researchers were confronted with a shocking fact. Of the more than 3 billion nitrogenous base pairs that make up our genetic code, only about 1.5% contain direct instructions for protein synthesis. The remaining 98% was hastily and arrogantly labeled as non-functional DNA or junk DNA. How could an evolutionary process spanning millions of years maintain and multiply a massive amount of genetic information with no biological role? The answer provided by Sumerian texts and manuscript fragments salvaged from the Dead Sea is devastating. That so-called junk DNA is not useless at all. It is a dormant biological archive, an encrypted data structure, placed in our cells by Anunnaki genetic engineers. In ancient Babylonian creation accounts such as the Enuma Elish, it is described with surgical precision how the gods combined their own biological essence with the matrix of primal terrestrial creatures. The text does not use poetic metaphors, but technical terms. It speaks of pure earth, divine blood, and shaping the matrix. The result was not a new species that arose through natural selection, but a genetic hybrid designed for precise purposes. But what happened to this code over the millennia? When the Anunnaki civilization withdrew their direct physical presence from the surface of the earth, leadership was delegated to a line of chosen hybrids, the first priest kings of Sumer, Egypt, and Mesopotamia. These rulers carried a higher concentration of the original genetic code, a biological sequence that allowed them to access higher states of consciousness, communicate by resonance with the acoustic technologies left behind, and have extraordinarily long lifespans, just as documented in the Sumerian king list. Over time, through the mixing of populations, this divine genetic sequence became diluted among the great mass of people. But the elite retained a hard core. Classified documents from the Vatican's special vaults, secretly analyzed during the Chronovisor project, revealed a disturbing fact. When Father Pellegrino Ernetti and his team scanned the timelines of the great ruling families from antiquity to the present, they found that the genetic markers of leadership had not been lost. They had been protected by rites of passage, consecration ceremonies, and strict inbreeding controls. The mystery deepens when we look at the Rh-negative factor in human blood. About 15% of the global population has the Rh-negative blood type, an immunological anomaly unique to Earth. Unlike all other blood factors that can be traced to higher primates, the Rh-negative factor has no evolutionary connection to terrestrial species. Rh-negative mothers whose bodies naturally reject Rh-positive fetuses in the absence of modern medical intervention demonstrate a primary biological incompatibility. Where did this sudden mutation in the human gene pool come from? Why is it massively concentrated in certain historical regions and within certain dynastic lines? The Forbidden Archives suggest that Rh-negative blood carries the purest imprint of untransformed Anunnaki DNA. It acts as a highly sensitive biological antenna, capable of receiving the sacred resonant frequencies, 432 Hz, 528 Hz, and 1111 Hz, without the acoustic noise to which the general population is subjected by the artificial 440 Hz standard. Here the conspiratorial circle between ancient genetics, control frequencies, and Vatican secrets closes. Think of how a modern biometric lock works. It is not opened with a physical key, but by fingerprint or retinal recognition. Similarly, ancient technology buried under the ice of Antarctica, acoustic devices hidden in the catacombs of Rome, and resonance gates connected to the planet Nibiru cannot be activated by just anyone. They require a specific genetic fingerprint. The secret cloning and genetic engineering projects carried out in recent decades under the umbrella of well-intentioned medical research have not only aimed to cure diseases. The world elite have sought to decode, isolate, and synthesize the genetic sequence of the creators. Attempts are being made to artificially reactivate the portion of non-functional DNA to allow access to technological interfaces left on Earth before the Great Flood. When Vatican researchers realized in the 1960s that the chronovisor reacted differently depending on the operator touching the controls, they realized that the device measured the person's bioelectromagnetic field. Certain operators could clarify images from the past simply by their presence, while others only generated white noise on the screen. The operator's genetic field dictated the clarity of the signal from time. This is why the papal institution has kept secret not only the device, but also the applied genetic studies conducted on the skeletons of ancient patriarchs discovered in secret reliquaries. It wasn't just sacred bones that were kept for religious veneration, it was DNA samples from the royal lineages that were kept unaltered. Today, we are at the point of maximum convergence. As the planet's Schumann resonance registers unusual spikes and the Earth's magnetic field weakens, the frequency jamming that has kept human DNA in a dormant state is beginning to unravel. Portions of our genetic code considered junk begin to react to cosmic impulses emitted by the Nibiru system in its vicinity. The symptoms of this biological awakening are visible everywhere: an unprecedented increase in states of expanded consciousness, heightened sensitivity to sounds and frequencies, a spontaneous rejection of control narratives, and an obsessive search for historical truth. The Anunnaki genetic matrix within us is beginning to resonate with the original signal. The secrets hidden beneath St. Peter's Cathedral, the maps of Antarctica drawn without ice, the shift in musical frequency to 440 Hz, and the attempt to maintain the purity of royal bloodlines all had one goal: to postpone the moment when humanity will remember who it truly is. The doors of the archive are about to be broken down, not by an outside force, but from within our own cells. The code has been written. The frequency has been set. And the time of silence is over. Look within, listen to the vibration of truth, and prepare for the final unlocking. The truth was never lost, it was just encoded in your blood, waiting for the right signal to awaken.